Hello and good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your captain speaking, and welcome to Educate Racing. In this video, we're going to talk about how to tune for natural frequency in Gran Turismo 7. Now, obviously we're going to talk about the other parameters, but we'll do so in future videos because there's already so much to unpack with natural frequency alone. Okay, and also I could simply just tell you how to tune it, but without explaining it, you're not gonna get the information to stick. Okay, so just bear with me. I'm gonna try to keep it within 10 minutes. Okay, so here we go. Before I explain what natural frequency is, we need to understand our goal, what it is that we're trying to achieve, and that is to support the car's weight according to its weight ratio with the springs. You see, in a go-kart, the chassis of the cart sits directly onto the tires, but on a car, it's sitting on springs. Therefore, we need to make sure that our springs are strong enough to support the weight of the car given its weight ratio. You see, the weight ratio basically means that 54% of this weight is sitting in the front, 1,578 pounds. I got that by multiplying the weight, 54% or 0.54, and you get the weight for the front, 1,578, 1,344 for the rear. Okay, that is how you balance the weight of a car. In Gran Turismo, it's irrelevant because we don't have pound per square inch to apply. Instead, it's natural frequency, and we'll get to that. So now that we understand how to tune for our springs for whatever car we need, all we need to do now is apply it to natural frequency. And before we do that, I have to show you a small demonstration so that it would make sense. Okay? Now, real quick, imagine my cursor weighing 100 pounds, and that this 100 represents a spring rate of 100 pounds per square inch. Okay? I'm going to take my object and place it on top of the 100 pound per square inch spring, and we have a spring ratio of 1:1. Can we agree to that? Because the strength of the spring is as strong as the weight of the car. Okay? This is a 1:1 weight ratio, or natural frequency 1. Okay? If I take my same 100 pound object, place it on top of a 200 pound per square inch spring, the spring rate is now 2:1, or natural frequency 2. Okay, one more. If I'm to take my 100 pound object, place it on top of a 300 pound per square inch spring, we now have a spring ratio of 3:1, or natural frequency 3. Okay, does that make sense? All this means is basically it's a spring multiplier. That's it. The strength of the spring. It just multiplies the strength of the spring. That's all this means. Okay. It sucks how it doesn't say strength of spring multiplier. Instead, it's natural frequency. It's so confusing. But whatever. Now that you understand what this means and how it's related to Gran Turismo and the cars and all that, we can now apply it to tune for our car. Right? Now, at this point, it's all driver preference, okay? Because we already understand how to tune for it. We understand what natural frequency means. We can tune our car. Now, in our little demonstration, the weight of our object weighed 100 pounds, okay? In Gran Turismo, our car, the object, weighs 2,923 pounds. And with the math that we had earlier, it means that 1,578 is the 1:1 ratio according to the 54% sitting in the front according to this weight. That's the 1:1 weight ratio. All right? Now, all we need to do, if that be the case, is set natural frequency to 1. But because the minimum value for this car is 1.8, for the sake of the video, we'll just round up to 2.0. All right? Now, do you agree that this is saying that the strength of the spring is twice as strong needed for the front weight of the car? Right? Does this, can we agree that this means it's 2.5 times as strong needed for the front end of the car? This is 3 times as strong needed for the front end of the car. Right? Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You now fully understand how to tune natural frequency in Gran Turismo 7. Okay, but don't worry, we're not done yet. Right? The whole goal was to understand how to tune for this, and now we know what this means. Okay, now to tune this as the driver, all we want to do is start at 2.5. We want to tune our car set at 2.5. Okay. This is how strong we want our foundation to be. Okay, as in we want both front and rear to feel like 2.5. Gotcha. Now the thing is, because the front says 2.5, it does not mean the rear says 2.5, even though it does. Even though they're the same, they are different. Let me explain. Going back to our stock suspension, you realize that the front has a discrepancy of 20 points or 20%. That only means that the springs for this car is stiffer by 20% for the rear compared to the front. That's all that means. Okay, so even though you set this value to 2, the rear also feels like it's 2, even though it reads 2.2. Right? Let me elaborate. If we go back to fully customized suspension, you also notice the 20-point discrepancy, right? That means 2.3 on the front feels like 2.3 for the rear, even though it reads 2.5. Okay? If you still don't believe me, let me show you. If I set the spring rate in the front to the medium rating and set the rear also to the medium rating, there's a 20-point discrepancy. That means even though the 2.75 for the front feels like 2.75 for the rear, they're both on the medium setting. Okay, if I set this to 275, that means the rear is too stiff. Even though they're the same, the rear is too soft. Even though they're the same, they're different. Okay, to balance this, you need to apply the discrepancy. So whatever setting you have here, you also have to add for the back. Okay, because the rear is the higher value, or however you want to set it, whatever. Okay, so like for example, I start at 2.5, right? This is our foundation. I want 2.5 to be at the front. If I want the rear to feel like 2.5, then I'll set this to 270. Cool. Then now the rear feels like 2.5. Okay, and so vice versa. Cool. The rear feels 2.5, front feels 2.5. Okay. Or you can flip the script and say you want 2.5 here, then that means you have to deduct the 20 points here to maintain the discrepancy bit, right? That's how this setup was earlier in the first place. Look, if I set this to normal, set it back to fully customized, that's the stock value. Crazy. Okay. Anyway, going back to our preferred setup, right? We're the driver and we say, hey, mechanic, we want our springs to be 2.5 times as strong for the front and the rear. Yeah. Okay. So basically, it starts off like this. Okay. This is a 50-50 weight ratio. Okay, if I add 10 points here and add 10 points here, this also means it's a 50-50 weight ratio. It's just 10 points stiffer for both front and rear. We need to maintain the 50-50 weight ratio so that we can work around for this 54-46. Okay, going back to 50%. Now, 50-50. Okay. Now, if you notice that our car reads 54% in the front, 46 in the rear. 4% deficit, front and the rear. Okay. All that means is to add 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front. And I know that you caught that, so stay with me because I don't want to confuse anyone. We'll get back to that. Stay with me. And deduct 4% in the rear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Now, this setup is balanced according to the weight ratio of the car. Okay. If you're content with this, go ahead and test it out and see if it's too soft or too stiff. If so, bring it back and then we can tune from there. However, we wanted a setting of 2.5, not 2.54. So, because we deducted the 4% from the front, we also have to do so for the rear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we want to maintain 54-46 weight ratio. The weight is 54 in the front and 46 in the back. We want the front to support the springs by 2.5%. We want to do the same for the rear, regardless its weight ratio. The rear is light, so you don't need to have the rear end as strong as the front, right? The rear end is lighter. They're not balanced. The front is heavier. So the front needs to stay as strong as it needs to be. But because this is our foundation, we work for the rear end, right? Not both. Okay, because this is our foundation. This feels like 2.5. Okay, we want them to feel the same so that we can establish that consistency. When we accelerate or brake, it's going to feel the same in terms of brake instead of weight pressure onto the springs. Okay. Now that we understand how to tune your car for Gran Turismo 7's natural frequencies, window, whatever, right? This is balanced according to the 54-46 at the stiffness that we desire. Okay, now since let's say for instance that we took this out on track and we feel that it is too soft and we want to make it 10 points stiffer. Because we've established the balance already, all we need to do here is add 10 points to the front and 10 points to the rear. This maintains the 54-46 weight ratio, but it's now stiffer and it maintains the consistency, right? Same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to maintain weight ratio and consistency, but it's now a bit softer. Let's say this is a bit too soft, 1, 2, 1, 2. Maintain the weight ratio and you're good to go. Okay, now the reason why this is important is because of this. Okay, this is tip number 2, and this is very important, so please pay attention. If from here we decide to increase, okay, go back to here because this is what we want. Okay, from here, if we decide to increase the rear by 5 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we are generating rear end oversteer. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we increase the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're generating front end understeer. Okay. However, tip number 2 is we do not want to manipulate oversteer and understeer with the springs. It's the spring's job to support the weight of the car. That's it. The dampers have their own job, anti-rolls have their own job, the body roll, ride height has its own job. Okay, it's the the spring's job to support the weight of the car. That's it. We do not want to set this to manipulate the oversteer and understeer of the car. We will do that with ride height, and we'll get to that in the ride height video. But going back to natural frequency, you only want to tune your springs according to the weight ratio of your car, right? One more little example. Okay, let's say that I just want to start. Most oftentimes, you can start your tune from the middle, and that is your medium rating. And then from there, if you think it's too stiff, then you can just adjust from both front and rear at the same time because they're balanced already, right? Don't forget your weight ratio. So if I was to start in the middle, instead of going up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 4, down 4, you could just down 8, right? To maintain the 2.75 balance. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this is still 54-46, but at the strength of 2.75, both for front and rear. Got it? You got it? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next video is going to be about ride height. The front in particular is connected to our front natural frequency, so it's very important that we talk about this next. The ride height is one of 3 key values that we need to tune for the front springs. You already know how to tune for the front springs. In an advanced video, we'll talk about how to fine-tune it with the 3 values in mind. That's the weight ratio, front ride height specifically, and your aerodynamics. Okay, but we'll get to that in the advanced video. In the next one, we'll talk about front ride height. Okay, if you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. If you guys learned something from this video, hit the likes button. And if you have any further comments, questions, or concerns, drop it in the comment section below, and we can discuss it in future videos as well. Very good. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys learned from this. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you again. Bye-bye.